Hi, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about James Baldwin and his essay, and a little bit about the poems that you're going to start looking at these next few days. James Baldwin is a novelist, an essayist, and a playwright. He has an interesting bio you can read about here and watch the video about his background. And the essay you're going to read, he talks about a uh, riot that was going on. He talks about two of them, one in Detroit and then one later in Harlem. And this is video that kind of shows the looting and the destruction after the riot of what he would have seen as he was driving through that after his father's death. This is another picture wherein he talks about the wilderness of smashed plate glass. This would have been what he saw. Some other details about him: he grew up poor, eldest of 9 children, but his father was not the father. It was not his biological father. His father, who he grew up with, his stepfather, was a preacher and an angry man, died of tuberculosis and mental illness. His stepfather had also distrusted whites, and he didn't fully understand that for a long time. And then when he moved to New Jersey to work and he started interacting with whites and understanding the segregation, then he kind of started to have some insight about his father and started to reconsider maybe some of his father's views. I wanted to point out a few quotes from the PDF that I thought might highlight and be highlighted for you, or you should highlight and think about how they might connect with the poems that you're reading, particularly Blonde White Women, or Brain on Ice, or several others that talk, Young Lee's poem about his father, or his mother crying, the poem about the music. So there's a lot of connections you can use with Baldwin in various poems. Also the Nye poem on blood. So this shows groups. When I did this in class, I would have different groups talk about the quotes, but I thought I would just leave you with these quotes and consider them for your essays. This last quote on page 592, where it says, "There is not a Negro alive who does not have this rage in his blood. One has the choice merely of living with it consciously or surrendering to it." This is a key quote that you'll see come up later when we discuss the novel. And then this one that says group 4 on page 600, this was a really interesting quote where he reconnects with his father because he was remembering that his father liked his singing. And so just some different ones here for you to look at and consider when you're going through the essay. And 2 more. This idea, Baldwin, while he really connects very honestly with racism and the anger it produces, he also kind of focuses on the fact that love is the answer, and it's really a hard place to get to for him because of how angry he is, but he does get to that point. So some themes that come up in this essay when he talks about his father's death and his reconciliation of that, or racism, of course. There's a nice connection here between when he talks about his white teacher, and in Patricia Smith's Blonde White Women, she talks about her white teacher, and there's some interesting connections there. Also death and birth. His last sibling is born around the same time his father dies. Parent love and hate, those are interesting themes that you could write about for your essay. And also religion and also culture, those are ones that come up as options. So you're going to choose either a poem and the essay, or 2 poems. Some people choose 2 poems and an essay, but 1 poem and an essay is fine, or just 2 poems. You want to identify a theme that shows up in both that you want to explore. So you want to show a theme and use examples from both poems to demonstrate what they say about that theme. Examine what the relationship is and how they each approach it. Some suggestions that could be good, and you might come up with others, so you don't have to do these, but Baldwin's singing that happens in his article, and Young Lee, I asked my mother to sing, or Blonde White Women and Brain on Ice, or Nye's The Gift and Baldwin's The Second Generation Has No Time to Talk to the First, that idea that he talks about that. There's a lot of other ones. The Dancing is a great poem that can be connected with others, and just as long as you use 2 poems from the text, or 1 poem from the text and the Baldwin essay, that falls within the realm of the essay requirement. So I wanted to go through the excerpt of the first couple stanzas of Blonde White Women, since we don't really get the joy of sitting together and reading the poems together, and I wanted to go over a few things with this to point out some poetic elements. So it says, blonde white women, they choke cities like snowstorms. So that first of all, you can see this idea of the idea of choke is a really aggressive, violent one, and the word snowstorms, you're going to see she's in Chicago when she's talking about this, but and where this poem takes place. But there's also this real sense throughout the poem of use of color and how color has power. So it says, on the morning train I flipped through my Ebony. Ebony is an African-American magazine, marveling at the bargain basement prices for reams of straightened hair and bleaches for skin. It's this idea of African-Americans wanting to look or be white. Next to me, skinny pink fingers rest upon a briefcase, shiver a bit under my scrutiny. So she realizes that the woman next to her is sort of a little nervous maybe about her presence, and is a professional woman. It says, leaving the tunnel, we hurtle into the hurting sun. The idea that the light is painful. An icy brush paints the buildings with shine, fat spirals of snow. I'm sorry, and it's Boston, not Chicago. The other poem, Chicago. Become blankets, and Boston stops breathing. So a couple other literary things going on here. Alliteration, you've probably read about that in the lecture. That would be the beginning sounds of words repeated. Become blankets, Boston breathing. You can hear it there, or even at the beginning one where it says bargain basement prices, bleaches. A lot of B sounds in here. A lot of the idea of the blonde and the black. It is my habit to count them. So she's counting the white women on the train. So I search the damp, chilled length of the train car and look for their candle flames of hair. So if their hair is blonde, it's almost like it's on fire. The circle of blood at their cheeks, that curt, dismissing glare, the idea that the women are kind of glaring at her, dismissing her in some way. Sorry for the sound of the crows. Reserved for the common, the wrinkled, the black. So she's saying that the white women have a particular way of looking at her. So this gives you an idea of things like the imagery, or things like cheeks and glare and the magazine. The ebony is also intertextuality. It's referring to a text. And Boston is referring to a place that would be intertextuality as well. And then the idea of candle flames of hair, that is like a metaphor, that the hair is like a candle. Hairs and candles are not the same, but it is in the sense of it glowing, and glowing with maybe power. So that hopefully will help you a little bit. We can talk more about other poems if you're interested, but keep choosing, reading your poems, choose, and work on your music assignment. Again, choosing music lyrics and then writing about what poetic elements you see in them and why you like them and a little bit about them. If you have more questions, please let me know. Thanks.